Almost, okay. All right, okay. Good afternoon to anyone who is viewing our meeting. This is the Committee on Administration, County of Dunn. We are meeting here in room 60 of the county building in the basement level. With me, we have all of our committee members along with numerous staff. I'm going to ask Chris, if you would call the roll of the committee members, please.
I will. Supervisor Bashan. Here. Supervisor Bauer.
Here.
Supervisor Headland.
Here.
Supervisor Story.
Here.
Supervisor Vogel.
Thank you. All in attendance, we have a quorum. Approval of the meeting minutes. Our last meeting took place December 12th. We had kind of a combined November, December meeting. Anyone care to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Bauer, thank you. Seconded, Ms. Bashan. Any questions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Public comment. Do we have any public comments that came in? Nope. All right. Thank you. Staff reports, again, in writing. We received both activity reports and financial reports from administration, human resources, our criminal justice collaboration department, our treasurer, our IT department, our corporate counsel, and the county clerk's office. Any of the members of the committee have any questions or comments on any of the reports? Mr. Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just asking county manager on your budget report. 30,000, is that, am I reading it right? Is that 30,000 over budget on that? And how, and same with the financial, I guess. Financial department.
They were, I think the finance department was.
Are they
okay.
right? It looked like they were in parentheses as well, but.
The county manager's is over but it has to do, it's entirely in salary. And it has to do with, if you'll recall, when we added an assistant county manager, we allocated $25,000 towards that position. That was included in the budget, but not directly allocated to the county manager's budget. So it's entirely the cost of adding assistant county manager.
Thank you.
But we can look really quick. I can look really quick at the financial on the finance side of it, unless Beata's got it up quick. 2 seconds.
And we're below revenue on finance.
Here. We've moved into a new year. So if it is confusing. I don't know, Beata can maybe explain why they both show up as parentheses, but if you look at in the center section on the finance department, if you look in the center between finance and county manager, you see revenue and expense. And if you look at revenue, it's greater than expense. So in that particular case, that $87,000 is to the good. So the finance department ended up $87,000 to the good. And then if you look at the county manager side of it, you look at revenue versus expense, it shows a $22,000 deficit.
But was that just for projected or was that the total the 2024 actuals and the projected was up,
At
is
this,
it,
right, at this, the projected is, um, at this point in time, the projected should be pretty close. But I'll let Beata speak to this because she's more of the authority on this than I am. Hold on a second. Don't talk till it comes up because otherwise they can't, it doesn't record.
All right, so looking at the financials on a PDF file, you have all the figures up above, and then the total in the blue will show you as a negative. Then the question is, well, why is the one on the bottom doing a positive? So originally, that negative was confusing, so I attempted to make that translation and appear them to be less confusing by showing them without any parentheses to then say, here's your revenue as a whole number, less your expensive. And then when you are in parentheses, that means you're less. But again, we can change that if that's also confusing. All right, you know.
I think the question though, Beata, is
is
why
then-
why are the
Why-
year-to-date and the projections, would they not be close to the same? Why would the projection number be less than the year-to-date numbers?
Yes, and the reason being is because there are non-cash transactions. So when you look at the year to date, you actually have the actual cash and expense transactions. So you have the levy. That's actually a cash transaction that was done to record that that money came in. Now, if I look down and you have these CIP ARPA federal. So we received this money back in 2023. So it really, it's not recorded as a cash transaction for the year because it happened, but it's in the budget because it's given the authority to draw on that funding when we balance the budget.
So the simple
so-
explanation would be that it's okay to go by the projected numbers. Those would
Yes.
be an accurate reflection of the end of the year, right? Is that
Right,
correct?
That is why they're different.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Yes, Michelle.
Question for our HR director on the utilization and savings report. If you could just explain the numbers and compare to last year.
might be here a while. Maybe a Snickers.
After I turn my mic on. Okay. So you'll see here, this is the report that was included in the packet. So this is a report of the 2024 utilization of our care navigation service. So we've talked about it a few times in the past, but just a brief overview of what that is basically a shopping service for the folks on our health plans to help them find best value care options for pre-planned imaging or operations that they need. So nothing emergency, but if they're able to plan for something like a CT scan or a knee replacement, they can use this service to navigate the options within our network and select the best value option. So what we would be looking to see in if this is a worthwhile program, I'll kind of point your attention to the middle of the report here, would be to see if our offered savings are in line with what we're seeing for actual savings. So this number right here in the orange box, this is the number overall of the anticipated savings that were offered as options to any member of the health plan that called in 2024. The number here in the green box represents the actual savings that were followed through on. So those are the numbers that employees received the list of best value options and they followed through on scheduling their appointment there. And then they took the survey to say, I did that. And so that's what triggers for them to receive a cash incentive from the county. The cash incentive program is new as of 2024. We had talked about it kind of earlier this year. And so it's so fascinating to take a look at the 2024 report compared to 2023. I just want to make sure this is 23. So I need to share the screen again. Sorry. There we go. Okay. So I have here the full year report from 2023, and you can see in looking at overall the offered savings is a little more than half of what was offered in 2024. So what this tells us is there's more people calling for the service, and that's a great start, right? But obviously we would like for folks to follow through on the recommendations because that is giving our plan the best opportunity for savings. And this green box here in 2023 represents the actual net savings that we received or that we anticipated for 2023. So the comparison from 2023 to 2024 is pretty noticeable, I would say. I just need to navigate back. There's got to be a better way. Well, at any rate. Okay, finally got back to the 2024 report. So you can see our net savings for 2024, 239,000 compared to last year at the $60,000. And so what we know to be different from this year compared to last year was the implementation of those cash incentives. Prior to considering implementing those, we got a lot of feedback from employees about, well, why would I jump through all the extra hoops? That's more work for me. And it is extra work. Our hope with the service is that it makes it a little bit easier because if you've tried to shop for care on your own, you find that it's pretty difficult to get prices ahead of time. And so it appears that the incentivizing is working in our favor and providing more opportunity for savings. Any questions there? I do have the 2022 report, but it takes me about 5 minutes to transition between each one. So I won't bring it up, but actually the net savings in the first year was 137,000. So we saw a dip in the second year. So I think it was really timely that the committee and the board approved those cash incentives to really boost the utilization. And I think we're seeing what we'd like to see. I do have one note with regard to the financial report for the self-insured health plan. So kind of switching gears a little bit, if I may. I'm going to stop sharing. So this would be page 11 of your packet. You'll see the self-funded health insurance summary from January to December 2024. And in that lower right-hand corner in the net row, you'll see that it's showing a negative balance of 1.1 million roughly. I wanted to kind of shed some light on why it's appearing this way. So in 2024, we paid about $1.1 million worth of claims that actually were serviced in 2023. So there was a pretty extreme delay in claims processing with our third-party administrator that we worked with in 2023. That was part of the reason for the switch in 24. But I do want to assure you that that 1.1 million in late claims that was accounted for in the 2023 audit report as a liability. And so what landed as fund balance in the 2023 audit report does reflect this negative 1.1 million. So rest assured, we're not likely to see a dip in the fund balance by 1.1 million because that was already accounted for in last year's audit. Are there any questions about that? It took me a lot of conversation with Beata to wrap my head around it, so I can appreciate if you need any clarifying questions.
So the bottom line is though, 24 should be about even.
We're close. Yeah, we're close. I'm anticipating, so we're still receiving stop loss reimbursement dollars. We're still receiving pharmacy rebates. So it's still going to take a little bit of time for us to really see where we land for 2024. And I will report back when we feel like we're in a good place with that.
Any other questions for personnel? Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And are people asking about the incentives? I mean, obviously some people have already been paid them now in 24.
Yep. Yeah. So we did a little bit more intentional communication around the time of open enrollment too, because we were seeing that the net savings wasn't where we wanted it to be. And you can kind of see in looking at the report, the spike October. No, I mean, it's hard to say what contributed to that because I think end of the year is common for folks to get in there and get their procedures done before the new deductible year. But I think it really did make a difference. We were able to reach certain groups of employees that can be difficult to reach just because they're not sitting at their desk reading emails all day. So we were able to put some effort into some in-person meetings, and I think it did make a difference.
Thank you.
I would also add that we know through like anecdotal stories of people who were kind of reminded, hey, why don't you check with Aletheus, and then went with that a lesser expensive option. So quality, but lesser expensive.
Good. Well, that's what we're definitely hoping for. All the hard work personnel is doing and everyone else is paying off. It's good to hear. All right. Any other reports or questions for the staff? Okay. Next item on our agenda, review the vouchers from 12/4 of 24 through is it 12/14 was the cutoff? So it says,
Yes,
Okay.
12/14.
sure.
Thank you. My comment to you is that as you're looking at these vouchers, vouchers, I know in my accent, it sounds like the bird that comes and gets your stuff. Okay, so, okay, as you're looking at this document, you might see that there are phones that seem like might be duplicate. Keep in mind that those are not duplicate. I went through and I verified them. What you're looking at is that in December, we also paying invoices in January that are put back into 2024. So this is what we call period 13 with the ending date 12/31, because it's services that were rendered and items that we received goods that in 24, but now we're getting invoices for. So the phones specifically, there's a phone that we're paying for November and December that we are putting back in December period 13. So that is why you would see some of those duplicate entries. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
And I did ask Beata to, similar to as I have done over some years, to kind of handpick a couple of items to just give you a sense of what some of the things that you see might be, in addition to whatever questions that you may have.
Yes, that was the directive. Fortunately, I did not have time to really dive into, other than glanced at it and wanted to bring those, what that might appear like duplicate. Like, did you pay this invoice twice? Because it's the same dollar amounts. But that is the reason. And that might be the case for other vendors as well. You might see, but that is because it's, again, catching there what we're paying for services and goods received in November, paying in December, and we're still getting it. And we might still see them as we go into February. Okay. So sorry.
Never
That was
mind.
the intent, but it didn't happen.
And so you just reflect that backwards then as far as budget? You have to do that?
So it is budgeted in the right year.
Okay.
So when you look at projections and you look at budget actuals, it's all in the same year.
Thank you.
I think
Yeah.
another,
Go ahead.
I was saying, I think another way of just thinking about it is think about if a year happens within a calendar year, we're still paying for December in January, but we have to put those costs back to December. So, because we can't run a report that takes us through January, because now we're paying January costs. So it's just bumping back December bills paid in January, so it looks like 2 payments happened in December.
Yeah.
Oh, I had one that Beata might be able to explain, because I see it every so often in different places, the one-time vendor reference account, which must mean just a generic because we don't want to add someone. Is that-
Okay, so now I take back what I just said, that I didn't do my notes, because I semi-did, then I realized there's a lot more. So yes, those are, I believe, was that the milkweed? No, it was a one vendor payment.
No, there's,
Yes,
throughout
it shows as, right,
one-time vendor reference account
right. And we have one in admin, I believe.
for 10,000.
Right, and this is where we made that payment contribution to a vendor. And I did have a resolution in handy, but I didn't bring it with, but the name was,
Home Sweet Menominee.
oh, there
It
you
was
go,
the
Home Sweet Menominee,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you.
Yep.
I don't know
And so
where
that was
this
a
milkweed.
Payment to the community foundation, and they weren't set up as a
Yeah.
vendor in our account.
Yeah. And that was
Thank
one that
you.
we passed last meeting. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
I've got a couple.
Go ahead, Michelle.
So one big one first. So spread throughout pretty much all the cost centers for CDW LLC, for maintenance contract totals up to about 123,000.
I'm guessing it's an IT thing, but if you could clarify which.
I started walking as soon as you brought it up. Yeah. So that is actually our Microsoft license.
Okay.
So that is how we distribute those costs. Every single department pays for their own Microsoft license. Oddly enough, we typically pay that in August. There was a glitch. So we are
Add it in before the end of the year.
yeah, and yeah, it actually was in most people's expenses twice right now, so we're kind of cleaning that up a little bit. But yeah, that expense came through. So to the department heads over there saying, "How come my maintenance and contracts went over?" That's why. But we're getting that cleaned up.
And then just one under patrol. I'm gonna guess they didn't go dancing, but there's one to Tango Tango. Just curious of what that would be.
It's a radio. It's an F radio now.
It's a radio ad.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just sounded more fun, but
It's kind of a military term, isn't it? Tango, yeah. It does seem strange. Okay, anything else? Okay, motion to approve presentation of the vouchers. All right, Sheila, second? Second, Michelle? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Fine, thank you all. Good questions, thanks for the explanations. I know it's not easy. I ran a small business, we just pulled a few extra checks out of the checkbook and hid them under the back page. Knowing that there's gonna be things that popped up that, somebody come running in and, oh, I forgot to send you this bill for fixing your truck or something, whatever. All right, down to, consideration reports, resolutions, ordinances to the county board from the committee. A resolution to amend the inventory of job classifications. Go ahead. Hear from Jenna on this one.
All right. So just kind of as a foundation, our personnel code ordinance requires that the Committee on Administration review proposals for changes to our inventory of job classifications, which is really our inventory of job titles. And so this request came forward from the health department within the WIC division due to a grant a few years ago that was issued. They have provided a service for peer counseling for breastfeeding mothers. And so that is a required component of that program in order for them to receive those grant dollars. We've filled that need with limited term and contracted employees. But we've recently reviewed that ongoing relationship. The current employee in that role has been in the role for 2 years now. And so it's kind of reached the point where it hasn't felt like it fits the definition of a limited term employee anymore. And so, although that position is only intended to be filled so long as there's grant funding available, like a lot of our positions in DHS and whatnot, we are asking for this job title to be added to the inventory of job classes so that we can convert the status of the position to a regular part-time role. So as part of that, we review the aspects of the position for proper placement on our compensation grid. And we did do that. And you can see in the report that we are recommending, sorry, I have to scroll down through the audit or through the vouchers. I believe we are recommending placement at grade E of our current wage schedule, which in 2025 is $18.90 to $24.79 per hour. So as I said, there is a current employee that's been in the role as in a limited term capacity. Really, that would look like us providing an offer for regular part-time employment within that pay grade.
Questions? The committee?
Yeah.
Bob, go ahead.
I'm assuming that if the grant is so many dollars, you put her in a point where the dollars are gonna run out at the end of the year at the same time as year ends? Is that the way you put her in that E grade is, or,
Nope. So
what do you do with the extra dollars if you don't? In a grant, I mean, if there's money left over, I guess.
that might be a question best answered for KT and her crew. But I know that they're really diligent about ensuring that they're able to get the most out of each program. He's helping with the microphone. I thought maybe he wanted to speak. Um, just as if like funding were to run out sooner than anticipated, then they would need to make some changes in working with the Health and Human Services Board to decide how to navigate that. So this request is not anticipated to impact any sort of levy ask or budget. If funding were to end, the position would be eliminated. I will say we're kind of in a funky spot because technically we would like for the Health and Human Services Board to be on board with this ahead of the Committee on Administration. However, their meeting is after this one today. So we kind of added a contingency of the Committee on Administration approving this so long as there's support at the Health and Human Services Board meeting later today.
Questions? Sheila?
So I missed that last question.
Oh, I don't know if it's working. Oh, there we go.
Well, hello. Hey there. Anyway, what I was wondering is the amount of the grant covered with the 1890 to 2479?
Yes, so they will place the employee at the position that they can cover with the grant funds that are available.
That was my first question.
Mhm.
Second question is, do you have any idea how many people are utilizing this program through WIC?
I wish I did.
Okay, that might be a question for the next meeting. to
Yeah.
see where it might be going in the future, since this is the last year and we'd have to keep,
Mhm.
okay.
I can receive answers to those questions. They're best answered probably by the nutrition program manager, Grace Poliak. And I can report back with those
Well,
next month or via email too.
I don't think that's necessary. I think that it's just something that made me think that, okay, is it gonna be a necessary thing for us to want to try and do next term, next year? So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Your counselor.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Well, second.
Val?
Good afternoon. Pleased to report that we received 2 new grants for 2025 that weren't accounted for in the 2025 budget. One is for treatment opportunity, or excuse me, it's treatment alternatives and diversion state dollars, 100,000 for treatment court to enhance the team and participant services. And the second one is for $250,000 from State Department of Family Services or Health Services, excuse me, for law enforcement opioid abatement. So that is really out of, housed out of the sheriff's department, but the grant would be managed by the CJC office. And that is state opioid dollars that were awarded to us. So I'd be happy to address any questions.
So that's not basically any previous funds that we've already received as separate opioid funds for ourselves, and then this would be an additional money that the state received, and now they're passing it out.
That is correct. That is out of their percentage of the settlement dollars that they're redistributing out to the counties. Yes.
Very good. Any other questions?
Motion.
All right, thank you.
I would make a motion that we move forward the budget adjustments for 2025 budget adjustments for the CJC
Second.
as listed,
Oh, sorry.
as listed.
As listed, okay. Second, all right. So there's two budgets, one for $100,000, one for 250, which would change their budget by a total of $350,000. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much and good luck with that
Thank you.
additional work for you, I know, but
You might want to just note the typo at the bottom before it gets to county board. It's 2025, not 2,255.
oh, that's a long ways away.
I know, golly.
One extra five. Thank you. All right. Okay, our next meeting date for this committee will be the 27th of February. I would assume here in room 60 again at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Any announcements? Right, 27th of next month. Hearing no announcements, stay warm. It's been a real roller coaster, but we're gonna get a little warm up, get your car washed, and then make sure the doors are dry before the cold weather hits. And don't park it wet in the garage floor because my wife found out that it doesn't want to move. We are adjourned. Thanks everyone for coming. And thanks for all of the help from staff and our county administration staff.